Haunted Secrets of Wyvern Towers, discover the sinister truth behind 100 years of cursed darkness. Angela trudged up the cracked path to Wyvern Towers, her heart pounding as the wind howled around her, a ghostly whisper echoing the building's haunted legacy. It loomed above, the faded green bricks seeming to watch her with hollow eyes. "Just stay calm," she muttered, gripping her bag tighter, but every chilling breeze felt like icy fingers brushing against her skin. Inside, the hallway felt alive, the air thick with a miasma of foreboding. Max clung to her leg, his small body trembling. "Mommy, I hear kids laughing," he whimpered, his innocent eyes wide with fear. Angela's stomach dropped. She gently ruffled his hair, but the laughter reverberated through the walls, a sinister reminder of childhood joy twisted into something unnatural. "It's just the stories from school, sweetheart," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, but as the days blurred into night, the unsettling occurrences began. Cold drafts ricocheted through the narrow hallways, whispering her name like a long-forgotten memory. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, and she found herself locking the door tighter each evening. She could feel it, an undeniable presence that weighed on her soul, stretching her already fragile patience thin. "What was that?" Max asked one night as they huddled in the dim light of their living room. Angela's heart raced as she glanced towards the darkened entryway. "It was just the wind," her thoughts spiraled with anxiety. Every creak, every rustle, felt like an echo of despair, warning her of dangers she couldn't see. Then there was the attic. It felt like the heart of Wyvern Towers, pulsing with secrets. One quiet afternoon, curiosity got the better of her. As she rummaged through dusty boxes, her fingers brushed against a worn leather journal. She opened it, and her breath caught in her throat. The pages were filled with frantic letters about the very building they inhabited, cries for help of families who had gone missing, vanished without a trace, absorbed into the shadows of Wyvern Towers. Her mind raced. Was this really happening? Just before the peak of her dread set in, she jolted upright, recalling Mr. Hartman, the superintendent, with his charming smile that always felt predatory. He had a way of watching, always lurking, as if he fed on their fear. Angela shivered and glanced out the window. A sudden flicker of lights illuminated her cramped apartment, distorting her reflection. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The very essence of Wyvern Towers felt alive, pulsating with dark energy. Angela's resolve teetered as she pieced together the journal, each entry blurring the line between the past and her present, mirroring her own life. The sinister echoes within the walls whispered of betrayal, deception, and lives swallowed whole. Every night, as Angela lay exhausted in the dark, shadows crept closer, chilling her bones. Max's innocent fears transformed into something sheer and grasping, threatening to envelop them both. Would she become just another story forgotten in the building's past? Frantic breaths echoed in her ears as the final entry of the journal fogged her reality, revealing a harrowing truth. History seemed about to repeat itself. Chilled to the marrow, she felt the haunting pull of Wyvern Towers wrapping around her, ensnaring her family with a grip that threatened to draw them into its cursed legacy. Trembling, she took a deep breath, and as a sinister voice echoed from the walls, she wondered had she ventured too far into a dark history that refused to let go. "You shouldn't have come back." Angela's heart thudded in her chest as she staggered back from the journal, the weight of its revelations bearing down like a stone. The walls felt alive, and she pressed her back against the cool, damp surface. It was as if Wyvern Towers exhaled, the rasping whisper swelling around her, curling into her ears like smoke. "You shouldn't have come back." The malevolence dripped from the air, thick and suffocating. Max squeezed her leg tighter, his small fingers digging into her thigh. "Mommy? I'm scared." His voice trembled, a frightened little chirp that scraped against her resolve. She crouched down, lifting his chin with the palm of her hand. She had to stay calm for him, to protect him from the growing darkness that threatened to consume them both. "Let us get some light in here," she said, forcing a brave smile, masking the terror churning in her gut. Angela turned towards the attic window, but outside, a swirling storm brewed. Thunder crackled ominously, punctuating the atmosphere with every strike. Rain began to pound against the roof, echoing like a drum, tightening her chest further. As she groped through the clutter, seeking a lantern or flashlight, an icy draft swept through the room, immediately extinguishing the flickering candle on the nearby box. Darkness reigned. Panic rose as she fumbled for her son, fear solidifying her grip. "Max?" she called, her voice barely a whisper against the howling wind outside. In response, a high-pitched giggle echoed through the shadows, sending shivers cascading down her spine. "Mommy, I don't like this," Max whimpered, and just then, a shadow flitted past the window. Her heart raced. "Stay close," she ordered, her voice growing unsteady. She edged toward the door, the chilling laughter wrapping around her like a counterpoint to her increasing heartbeat. It was there again, bubbling just below the surface, always just out of sight. Once outside the attic, Angela turned down the narrow hallway, every step echoing ominously in the silence. The laughter, choked and hollow, continued to dance around her, whispering sweet promises of comfort laced with dread. With each powerful heartbeat, the atmosphere swirled tighter, binding her in a web spun from fear. At the top of the stairs, the shadows lengthened like cruel fingers reaching for her. "Mommy, the voices are back!" Max cried, his small voice tremulous with rising terror. Panic surged within her as she held him close, forcing them both to descend the stairs. A light flickered from below, illuminating the bottom step. She rushed down, calling out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" The flickering light pulsed in response as if to taunt her further. The laughter faded momentarily, but the weight of something invisible crowded the space. The moment she reached the ground, the light vanished. Darkness engulfed her and Max, gripping tight like an unseen hand. "Mommy!" Max cried, the panic piercing through her composure. Then, a voice echoed from the void, chilling her to the bone. You should have listened before she could process the dread knotting in her stomach. A strong gust of wind blew past, howling through the doorways, slamming them shut one by one. They were trapped. Angela's thoughts spiraled into despair, fear coursing through her. This was it, she thought. They were going to become part of the building's horrid past. Then, as if igniting the spark of resolve, a realization struck her. Somewhere, hidden among the attic's shadows, lay the clues, answers to their grim fate. "We need to go back," she shouted, grasping her son's trembling hand. "Where?" he cried, eyes wide with terror. "The attic," she whispered, urging him to follow. They would confront whatever haunted Wyvern Towers and pull the darkest secrets into the light, or they wouldn't get out at all. But as they dashed back, the whispers grew louder, a chorus of lost souls that blended together in a bone-chilling symphony. Would courage alone be enough to face the horrors lurking within? The weight of old secrets bore down on Angela as she clutched Max, plunging them back into the depths of Wyvern Towers. Outside, the storm raged, reflecting the tempest boiling within as a sinister thought flourished. Would uncovering the truth save them, or seal their fates forever? Angela's breath caught in her throat as she pushed through the attic door, clutching Max's hand as if it were the last lifeline in a sea of despair. The oppressive darkness seemed to thicken around them, a living entity intent on swallowing them whole. "Keep close," she whispered, her voice quavering, then she froze at the sight before her. The walls were adorned with peeling wallpaper that seemed to pulse, as if the room itself was alive with hidden memories. Ghostly silhouettes danced in the corners of her vision, flicking away whenever she turned her head. Max shivered beside her, his tiny body trembling against her leg. "Mommy, I don't want to be here," he babbled, fear glazing over his wide eyes. Without answering, Angela stepped further into the room. She could almost hear the whispers of the past swirling around her, urging her to uncover their secrets. The journal she'd found was heavy with weight, its pages now ghostly in her mind as she raced to piece together the clues buried within Wyvern Towers' history. She caught a glimmer of light from the far end of the attic, flickering like the fading hope in her heart. "Over there!" Angela exclaimed, starting towards it with renewed determination. But the closer she got, the more the light danced, teasing and retreating as if it were aware of her intentions. Suddenly, the giggling echoed again, sharper and more menacing than before. "Mommy, please!" Max's voice quaked. Panic strobed in her veins. "Stay with me," she commanded, but the laughter grew louder. It twisted around them, wrapping tighter like a noose, the shadows creeping towards them as a dark tide rising. She could feel the chill penetrating her skin, clawing at her bones. That in a desperate bid to find her bearings, Angela wrecked through the detritus of the attic. An overturned trunk caught her eye, its lid cracked open like a gaping mouth. Fumbling, she scraped her fingers across the weathered wood and tugged it open. Inside, a mass of antique toys and dusty trinkets lay strewn about, but one item stood out, a tarnished locket. "Mommy, no!" Max whimpered as he pulled back, his grip slipping. Ignoring his plea, she lifted the locket and opened it with a trembling hand. A faded photograph stared back at her, a girl, maybe 10, with hollow eyes and a sad smile. "Who are you?" Angela breathed, feeling a magnetic pull toward the image. The locket hummed against her palm, a warmth building within the icy atmosphere, almost beckoning her toward understanding. "Max, look!" Before she could finish her thought, a deafening crash shook the room. The walls vibrated with a resonating roar, and books tumbled from the shelves like fallen soldiers. A dark shape unfurled from the shadows, looming larger than life, its form shifting and twisting grotesquely. "Leave now," a hoarse voice rasped, each word seeping with malice, sending jolts of fear coursing through Angela's veins. She turned, heart racing, instincts screaming at her to run, but her feet were glued to the creaking floorboards. Momentarily paralyzed, she clutched the locket tightly, sensing it pulsing against her skin. It almost felt alive. "Mommy!" Max's keen voice broke through her stupor, pulling her back. "Run!" They bolted towards the stairs, the shadow-like figure inching closer, its presence suffocating. The laughter morphed into howls, echoing like tormented wails, filling the air with a suffocating despair. As they reached the top of the steps, Angela glanced back, her heart heavy with dread. "What do you want from us?" she shouted into the void. Silence fell, a deceptive calm washing over the chaos. In that moment, she caught a glimpse of the locket. Its surface gleamed under the faintest hint of moonlight peeking through the attic window, a glimmer of hope or a warning. "Mommy, please!" Max cried out again, tugging at her arm. Realization slammed into her, a revelation intertwined with the terror that hung thick like fog. The truth was more terrifying than the shadows. As they dashed down the stairs, the storm raged outside, its fury howling alongside the unknown horrors lurking within Wyvern Towers. What lay ahead was a labyrinth of dread, and their only chance rested on that cursed locket, a mystery begging to be unraveled. Little did they know, that seeking the truth could unleash something ancient and unforgiving. Would they survive the night, or become yet another haunting of Wyvern Towers? The air thickened as Angela and Max stumbled down the narrow stairwell, the old wood creaking beneath their frantic footsteps. Shadows stretched unnaturally, clawing at their heels, reminding Angela of the unseen thing that had warned them to leave. Her heart raced, a drumbeat of dread echoing louder with each step they took. "Mommy, it's too dark," Max whimpered, his voice small and fragile, an echo of innocence lost. Angela tightened her grip on his hand, glancing back. The shadow lingered at the top of the stairs, looming, swirling, not quite moving, yet not allowing them an escape. It seemed to be feeding on their fear, harnessing the terror in the air. "Just a bit more, Max, keep holding on," she urged, forcing herself to sound brave for him, despite the icy tendrils of fear snaking around her spine. They reached the landing, desperation thrumming in their veins as they burst into the dimly lit corridor that led to the main floor. The flickering overhead lights cast strange shapes on the walls, turning the wallpaper into a restless ocean of grotesque figures. Mommy Max's voice dropped to a whisper, glancing nervously at the doors that lined the hallway. Each one seemed to breathe, pulsating as if they contained something alive inside. A chill crept into Angela's bones. Was it her imagination, or had she seen a face peeking through the keyhole of one door? "Don't look, just keep moving," she instructed, pushing Max forward, but the chill in the air grew harsher. The vision of that girl in the locket surfaced in Angela's mind, her hollow eyes. Why did it feel like a warning? Had she become entwined with something evil? What had happened in Wyvern Towers to shape such pain? "Mom!" Max tugged at her shirt, his small face pale with fear. "Where are we going?" "We need to find a way out," Angela said, her voice strong even as uncertainty rattled within her. They pressed on, the hallway stretching endlessly before them, doors on either side mingling with the shadows. Then, the laughter returned, echoing down the corridor, trailing off into manic giggles that entwined themselves through the darkness. Max shivered, his eyes wide with horror. Angela felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, cold and alive. "Angela," a soft voice cooed, the sound drifting from behind a closed door, a voice that sounded far too familiar. Her heart raced. "Max, stay right here," she commanded, her stomach twisting. She approached the door, the air thick with an unnatural tension as her fingers brushed against the icy doorknob. "Mommy, please don't." Max's plea echoed in her ears, but the urge to know, to understand what lay inside was too strong. With a deep breath, she turned the knob and pushed the door open. It creaked like a long-buried scream, revealing a dim room filled with remnants of the past, broken dolls, old furniture draped in ghostly sheets. In the center stood an antique mirror, its surface clouded and cloudy. Suddenly, Max's hand gripped her leg, panic bubbling in his voice. "Something's in there, Mommy. I don't want to go." But Angela felt an insatiable pull toward the mirror, as if it held every answer to her frantic questions. "Just one look," she murmured, stepping inside, heart pounding. Almost instantly, the room froze. A stillness blanketed the air, and the mirror reflected not only her own terrified face but a shadow behind her, a swirling mist of darkness pooling at her back. "Leave this place," the shadow growled, and Angela felt the weight of centuries of anguish bearing down on her, and then she saw it, a figure trapped in the glass, a girl with hollow eyes. Their gazes locked, and with a jolt, Angela knew. They weren't just looking for the truth. They were entwined in a nightmare that would repeat itself until someone broke the cycle. "Mommy!" Max screamed, pulling her back as the shadow lunged forward. Angela's pulse raced, her mind spun. How could she save them now? The thing in the mirror grinned, a cruel smile stretching across its face, whispering secrets that clawed at her sanity. They had to run, but the answers lay just out of reach. Glimmering through distorted reflections. What had she awakened, and was there any escaping the curse of Wyvern Towers? With chaos reaching a crescendo, the doorway trembled as if about to swallow them whole. Would they truly find a way out, or would they become another memory entangled in the haunted halls forever? The walls reverberated with their fate drawing closer, sealing their choices as a dark figure began to emerge from the depths of the glass, determined to shatter their pursuit of truth. The shadow surged forward, dark and swirling, as Angela yanked Max tightly to her side. Panic gripped her heart, suffocating her thoughts like a tightening noose. She felt the cold brush of the shadow against her neck, as if it sought to intertwine with her very soul. "Run!" she shouted, her voice breaking. There was no going back. They leapt backward, stumbling into the hallway, which now felt like an endless maw threatening to devour them whole. The laughter faded into a chilling silence, yet the oppressive weight of dread clung to the air, making it hard to breathe. Max clung tightly to her hand, eyes wide with terror. "Where do we go?" he cried, his voice rising in desperation. Just keep moving." Angela's throat felt tight, each word taking a monumental effort as they traversed the corridor. The flickering lights flickered into an erratic strobe, creating a nightmarish dance of shadows. Then, from behind them, a thud echoed, heavy and insistent. The door they had just escaped creaked open slowly, revealing the darkened room. And there, hovering at the entrance, was the figure reflected in the mirror, a grotesque mockery of a girl with those hollow eyes, now wide and sparkling with malevolence as it searched for its prey. Angela glanced back, chills shooting through her. It was moving. It was real. "Mommy!" Max squeaked, eyes darting, searching for a safe haven in the enveloping darkness. She felt the pull of terror grasping at her heartstrings, whispering lies about what awaited them if they didn't escape. Up ahead, she pointed, panic pushing her forward. A set of stairs stood at the end of the corridor, the only exit she could see. Its wooden steps, though evidently worn and unstable from the weight of years, beckoned her. They raced toward it, despair igniting every nerve in her body. As they reached the staircase, a flash of light erupted behind them, blinding and fierce, like 1,000 stabs of sunlight piercing through the gloom. Angela's heart thundered. Was it a sign of hope? Or another trap? "Mommy, don't look!" Max shrieked, tugging at her. But the brilliance was impossible to ignore, and against better judgment, she turned her head. The girl from the mirror stood there, suspended in the light, with an unsettling grin that spread wider than humanly possible. "You can't escape it," sang sweetly, voice lilting like a haunting breeze through bare branches. "You're one of us now." Pain seared through Angela's chest, tightening around her heart. No, she could not let that happen. "Keep going!" she screamed, forcing them up the stairs despite the panic curling around her mind like smoke. Each step echoed, rattling the walls around them, a thunderous reminder of the entity that prowled behind them. They reached the next level, this one darker, more sinister. The walls felt alive, moving subtly, as if in rhythm with their rapid heartbeats. A chill swept across Angela's skin, sending droplets of fear down her spine. "Mommy!" Max's voice trembled, pulling her attention. "What's that?" Ahead, the faint glow of a window appeared at the far end of the corridor, illuminating another door. But as they approached, the familiar laughter began again, echoing through the hall, sending their hearts racing. There was no time to hesitate. Angela pushed Max forward, but the laughter morphed into an agonized chorus of cries that seeped into her mind, haunting, unraveling her sanity. What if it's a trap? She thought wildly. Would it lead them to freedom, or into the jaws of darkness? "Mommy!" Max's small voice cut through her spiraling panic. She looked down and saw him watching her, eyes glassy with fear, yet unwaveringly trusting her. With every ounce of determination, she thrust the door open, praying for an escape. What lay beyond was a different world altogether, a vast room filled with mirrors, all reflecting distorted, terrifying faces that twisted and turned at odd angles, fueled with a malevolence that seemed to mock her very being. And as they stepped inside, all the whispers stopped. Silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. Then a single voice pierced the quiet again, soft yet powerful. "You shouldn't have come here." Angela turned, heart racing, as the mirrors rippled and the shadow surged forward, hungry for what they had awakened. Would they uncover the truth behind Wyvern Towers, or become yet another piece of its haunted history, trapped forever within its cursed walls? The moment Angela stepped into the mirror room, dread coiled in her stomach. The whispers faded, yet a heavier silence settled around them like a blanket of ice. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears, sharp and frantic. The reflections of distorted faces surrounded them, shifting and twisting as if alive, each one wearing a grotesque smile that sent shivers crawling up her spine. "Mommy!" Max's whisper was barely more than a breath, his small frame trembling beside her. She reached down to squeeze his hand tighter, steeling herself against the terror weaving its way through the room. "Stay close," she whispered back, forcing courage into her voice despite the knots tying her insides. As they stepped further inside, the atmosphere thickened. It felt like stepping into a tomb, and the mirrors began to hum low, not like the sound of music, but a resonance that echoed with pain and fear. The images reflecting their movements morphed into monstrous copies of themselves, twisted and gnarled. Angela's breath quickened as an unsettling realization dawned. A word from the past echoed in her mind, the name of the long-gone family who perished here. "Something's watching us," she murmured, glancing over her shoulder. A flicker in one mirror caught her eye, the figure of a woman. Her mouth moved soundlessly, lips parting as if trying to scream. "Mommy!" Max's voice trembled, barely contained, and Angela felt his grip tighten. "It's okay," she lied, forcing herself to move toward the far end of the room, where the glow of the window shone through cracked glass. Desperation gnawed at her, each step feeling heavier, weighted by the knowledge of what hunted them, but the laughter returned, swirling around like a fog, mocking, dripping with malice. You're trapped," it echoed, slinking through the air, seeped with the sorrow of countless unhinged souls. "Max. We need to go." Her voice was sharper now, tinged with fear-fueled urgency. She could not allow herself to be drawn into the madness. The mirrors seemed to pulse, drawing in her mind like a black vortex. As they rushed toward the glowing window, Angela's eyes flickered to the nearest mirror. A flash of movement caught her attention. There she stood, her reflection grinning wildly back at her, eyes wide and maddened. "Help," it whispered, but was it a plea or a trap? Paralyzed, she felt the air grow colder, a frigid hand clasping around her throat. "Mommy!" Max screamed, yanking her back to reality. She turned just in time to see the girl from the mirror materializing in the glass, stepping through the barrier like it was water. Its hair floated around its face in a dark cloud, eyes bubbling with rage, and that smile, it wasn't human. "You belong to us!" It shrieked, voice cutting through the haze of silence, sharp as glass. Panic surged through Angela. "Run, Max! Now!" She ripped her son's hand from the shadow's grasp just as it lunged, the air chilling in its wake. They bolted, the door ahead now a beacon of hope amid the egregious horror, but a cold, howling wind swirled around them, pulling them back, dragging their feet. Every fiber in her body screamed to move faster. "Don't look! Don't look!" Max cried, gripping her hand like a lifeline as they fought against the force tugging at them. Angela ripped open the door, and they burst through into darkness yet again. But this time, they landed in a narrow corridor lined with more doors, wooden and scarred. The laughter faded, replaced by something else, a pulsating sound that felt alive, drumming like a heartbeat. "Where do we go?" Max sounded breathless, the echo of fear lacing every word. Angela's eyes darted, searching frantically. Each door beckoned, whispering promises of safety, though she knew better. "This way." She picked a door, throwing it open. Silence met them on the other side, an expansive void, and just as she stepped in, the ground shook. Walls trembled, and the air hummed with a low vibration that crawled under her skin. "What's happening?" Max whimpered, fear pooling in his wide eyes, and then, one by one, the doors behind them slammed shut. In the darkness, she heard a voice. Low and breathing, it wove through the shadows. "You shouldn't have come here." As the shadows coiled tighter, Angela turned to face the advancing darkness once more, heart racing. Could they escape this time, or would the curse of Wyvern Towers finally claim them? The darkness pressed in, suffocating and thick, wrapping around Angela like a shroud. The walls trembled as if they were alive, breathing in unison with the heavy pulsations of the air. Each breath felt like a struggle for survival, a battle against the dread that clawed at her thoughts. "Mommy, I can't see." Max stammered, his voice quaking. She felt his small body vibrating with fear next to her, a living echo of her own growing panic. "Just hold my hand tight," Angela replied, her voice barely a whisper. She squinted into the abyss, searching for anything that resembled a way out. They stumbled forward through the void, the floor uneven beneath their feet, as they moved deeper into unknown territory. Angela's pulse quickened, thunderous in her ears. This wasn't just a corridor, it was a tomb, and they were interlopers in a twisted guardianship of shadows. Suddenly, a door creaked open behind them, the sound slicing through the silence like a knife. Angela turned, heart racing. The doorway stood wide, revealing only blackness inside, darker than the corridor itself. "It's calling us." Max gasped, digging his nails into her palm. "We shouldn't go. Please, Mommy." Angela shook her head, battling the instinct to flee. "We can't go backward. We need to keep moving." The walls pulsed around them, and the heartbeat throbbed louder, quickening. It was becoming erratic, almost panicked, resonating through her bones. "Choose, Angela. Choose wisely," the voice echoed again, hissing and almost familiar. As they pressed on, flashes of faces flickered at the edge of her vision. Shimmering in the darkness, only to vanish when she turned. Angela could feel them spying, judging. She could sense their fear mingling with her own, a buoy of solidarity amid the horror. "Oh God!" Max's whisper came like a ghost. "What is that?" The air grew even colder, a frigid breath whisking past them. Angela spun around. From one of the doors, a figure emerged, its face obscured, dripping shadows. The world around them dimmed further, the very light inside her heart fading with every step the entity took toward them. "Mommy!" Max screeched, eyes wide in terror. "Run!" Angela yelled, pulling him back as the figure lunged, arms outstretched. They turned again, darting down the corridor, the pounding heartbeats echoing around them like a twisted organ. The walls seemed to moan with every stride, a chorus of grief rising to meet them. They passed door after door, each one whispering secrets, each beckoning them with promises of answers, yet she felt nothing but dread. "Mommy, what if we never get out?" Max cried. His vulnerability tore at her insides, a blade twisting deeper. "We will, Max. We just have to find the exit." But her own certainty wavered, doubt creeping like shadows across her mind. They rounded a corner, and, at last, she saw a faint light ahead. Like a beacon, it shimmered, promising safety and warmth. "There. We have to get to that light." But the sound of whispering grew again, louder, swirling around them like a tempest of lost souls. "Turn back. Turn back." It demanded, raking against her thoughts with sharp, accusing fingers. "No. We're not turning back." Angela shouted defiantly, gripping Max's hand even tighter. The door loomed larger as they raced toward it, pulsing like a heartbeat, and as they reached out, the air crackled with electric anticipation. Just as her fingertips grazed the handle, the ground beneath them heaved with a violent quake. Everything seemed to shift, distorting their reality, blurring the light. "Mommy!" Max screamed as the floor dropped away from beneath their feet. Darkness swallowed them, the shocking plunge dragging them deeper into the unknown. Angela's scream mingled with her son's as the world around them disintegrated into shadows. In that terrifying moment, amidst the chaos, a thought struck her: what if they had been lured here, not for escape, but for something darker? As they fell, the walls of fear closed in once more, and a chilling voice echoed through the void. You'll never leave." What awaited them in the depths was unknown, but they were not in control anymore. They were simply pawns in a game too old to fathom, and suddenly, a glimpse of light broke through the encroaching darkness. Was it salvation, or another trap waiting to ensnare them? The fall seemed endless. Angela and Max plummeted through the murky void, the world around them becoming a whirl of shadows and whispers. Every second felt like an eternity, a spiral into a place where time ceased to exist. The cold gnawed at her, wrapping around her insides like icy fingers. Then, with a sickening thud, they landed on a hard, damp surface. Angela grunted, the air exploding from her lungs. She quickly sat up, hardly daring to breathe as she tried to comprehend their new surroundings. The faint light they had seen flickered like a dying star above them, casting crepuscular beams that barely illuminated the walls of rough stone. "Mommy, where are we?" Max's voice quivered, sounding small and fragile amidst the silence that surrounded them. Angela grasped for his hand, squeezing it tight, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I don't know, but we have to stay close." "Can you see anything?" "No, it's all dark." He tugged at her sleeve, his fear palpable. "I'm here, Max. I want to let go. As they cautiously rose to their feet, the whispering returned, soft and slippery, slithering into their ears. Stay, stay, linger forever, it taunted, mesmerizing as if it beckoned with promises, but Angela knew better. She pressed close to the wall, heart racing. This wasn't a sanctuary, it felt like a trap. Staggering toward the flickering light, they stepped over uneven stones, their soft footfalls swallowed by the darkness around. Angela took a deep breath, trying to push her rising panic down. Each step seemed to draw the walls closer, squeezing the air out of her lungs. Suddenly, the light flared bright, a harsh, blinding intensity that stung her eyes. They halted. A figure appeared in the glow, shrouded in an ethereal mist, its back turned toward them. It felt wrong, this warmth, this brightness in a place that should have been empty. "Max, stay behind me," Angela whispered, unease curling in her gut. She sounded brave, but inside, dread coiled tighter. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face worn and hollow, mouth moving as though chanting inaudibly. It raised a hand, and the atmosphere thickened, a heavy pressure pressing upon Angela's chest. The figure's eyes were dark voids, pulling at her soul not with malice, but with an unsettling familiarity. "Welcome, wanderers," it spoke, voice like rustling leaves. "You've come seeking the truth of Wyvern Towers." Angela's heart dropped. Wyvern Towers. She heard the stories, the building that loomed over their town with its sinister reputation. 20 years ago, they locked away something that awakened the fears of 100 souls. What truth? She demanded, trying to erase the shivers crawling up her spine. Of the cursed and the lost. Those who sought exit but found only decay. The figure gestured towards shadows lurking in the corners of their vision, figures, faces, trapped souls drifting between realms. It was inexplicable terror, a nightmare made real. Max clutched her side, trembling. "Mommy, I want to go home." "Shoo, we will," but her own voice faltered. Panic bubbled inside as she turned to the figure. "What do you want from us?" "We didn't come here to join your," but it cut her off, voice booming now, shadows flickering around. "You cannot leave once you learn the truth. You must choose, join us or remain here in torment." Angela felt the ground shake beneath her, sentences echoing around the cavernous space like chains rattling. She stumbled, horrified. "What do you mean?" "We were just looking for a way out." "Out? There is no exit for the unworthy. You must pay the price." The entity hissed, its voice a chorus of myriad voices in anguish. The truth was too heavy, a weight on her chest, crushing. Anguish twisted in her heart, she had to protect Max. "What kind of price?" she demanded, desperation fueling her voice. Souls for freedom," it replied, the faces of the trapped flickering closer, mouths mouthing silent screams. Angela's breath hitched, realization crashing over her. It wasn't just a choice, it was a sacrifice. "No, no." She gasped, holding Max closer, determined. "We're not giving anything to you." But as she prepared to flee, the triangle of light flickered, and all around them, darkness yawned wide, swallowing Max's terrified face in an instant. "Max!" The shadows lunged, muffled cries echoing as they consumed him. Angela's scream tore through the air as her heart shattered, despair crashing down like an avalanche. Alone now, she faced the specter. "Your choice, dear wanderer. Lie with the lost or fight for what is left." The choice loomed before her, heavy and suffocating, but Angela refused to succumb to it. She would find Max. With renewed fury, she turned her back from lingering whispers, stepping deeper into the void where nothing but darkness awaited. What sort of nightmare had she entered, and was there any hope in a place that devoured hope itself? As silence settled, a single thought echoed in her mind: how deep did this darkness run, and was there truly a way out waiting for them both? The air grew oppressive as Angela moved deeper into the dark. Silence pressed against her ears like a thick fog, each breath feeling sacred in this abyss. Her heartbeat echoed wildly, a drum against the haunting echoes of despair swirling around her. The walls seemed to bend with her fear, every shadow clawing at her resolve. "Max, where are you?" She called into the void, desperation threading her voice. There was no answer, only the whispering currents of the lost, swirling around her, wrapping her in a cocoon of dread. Each step away from the light felt like stepping deeper into quicksand. Suddenly, a familiar voice flitted past her, a sweet voice that turned sour in her ears. "Mommy," it echoed. Hope surged momentarily, urging her to turn back toward the flickering light. But would it reveal her son, or was it another cruel trick? Gripping the edge of her sweater, she made her choice. With a shaky breath, she pushed deeper into the darkness, forcing herself to walk away from the deceptive glow. The shapes of souls brushed by her, and she could see the despair etched into their faces, regret and sorrow trapped in a loop for eternity. The anguished eyes warned her of what awaited. "Keep moving," she murmured to herself. She pictured Max, running in the playground under the warm sun, laughing with friends. The thought fueled her steps, igniting a flicker of courage against the onslaught of fear. As she pressed deeper, she became aware of an unsettling sound, a low, thrumming hum vibrating through the stone beneath her feet. The cadence pulsed, building a rhythm that felt both lure and warning. It echoed in her mind, tugging at her heartstrings the way lullabies once had for Max. Her heart raced as she stumbled into another small opening, an enclave imbued with a sickly green light. The sight that met her rocked her soul, a circle of figures, shadows eternally trapped in a ghastly dance, chanting a melody of despair. They twisted and turned, their mouths perpetually caught in silent cries. "No, no!" Angela backed away, terror roaring in her chest. They were not just lost, they were prisoners. Their eyes bore the same emptiness as the figure that had spoken before, offering nothing but a hollow existence. And then, through the hazy figures, she spotted something, a glimmer of silver. Her breath froze as she recognized Max's silver locket, the one she had given him on his last birthday. It lay among the shadows, unmoving, shimmering like a sick joke. "Max!" she screamed, lunging forward into the ring of spirits. The figures reached for her, their long fingers brushing against her skin like icy tendrils. She felt a jolt run through her body, a wave of despair seeping into her core. "Join us!" they wailed in chorus. The words crawled into her ears, swirling her thoughts into confusion. She grasped at the locket, but dark hands snatched it away, holding it just out of her reach. "No!" Angela shouted, wrenching herself free from the grip of a shadow. She could feel her own panic spiral. The darkness would swallow her if she let it. "Fight it, fight them!" she screamed, rallying against the pull of despair. She reached out again, determined. "Max needs this. He needs me." The attempt ignited something within her, an ember of hope against the shadows wrapping around her heart. But as she grasped the locket, the ground beneath her shook violently, tossing her to the floor. The trapped souls shrieked, echoing their agony, feeding the darkness that closed in on her. "Leave this place!" a voice boomed, erupting from the depths of the gloom. It rang like thunder in her ears, pushing her up, urging her to move. With a final desperate glance at the locket still clutched in her palm, Angela turned her back to the wailing figures. She had to find a way to save Max and escape this cursed prison. But the shadowy whispers became louder, a cacophony of temptation and despair, bending her will. "Stay, you can't fight us, you belong here." Rushing through the darkness, panic surged again. Was there a way out? Or was she destined to join the souls mourning her fate? Each step felt heavier, and the voices clawed at her resolve. Was there truly an end to this nightmare? As she fled, the ground beneath quaked violently, a deep growl rumbling through the darkness. Angela's heart plummeted at the sound. Was the place shifting? Or was it something far worse awakening, watching her plight? "Max!" she gasped as the whispers grew closer, wrapping tightly around her. How long could she keep running from the inevitability this place promised? As she took another step, she felt eyes upon her, watching her every movement. The darkness encroached, seeped into her skin, and the air was taut with dread. Could she escape this endless despair? Or was she, too, destined to vanish like so many before her, trapped in the clutches of Wyvern Towers? The darkness seemed to pulse with menace as Angela stumbled through the void, the cacophony of whispers swirling around her like a tempest, tightening its grip on her heart. Her breath came in ragged gasps, panic painting every corner of her mind. This was more than just a chase, it was a battle against something ancient and insatiable. "Max! Where are you?" Her voice cracked, but desperation surged. She had to find him. Every ounce of her being screamed at her to keep pushing forward, to break free from the insidious shadows that threatened to drag her down. Suddenly, amidst the haze, she caught a glimpse of light piercing through the darkness ahead. Hope ignited within her. Was it a true beacon, or another cruel trick? "Hold on, Max. I'm coming," she called, racing toward the glow. The corridor twisted and turned, elongating agonizingly, as if the building itself conspired to keep her from reaching her son. But she pressed on. The closer she got, the more the light blossomed, illuminating the path. As she rounded the last bend, the walls opened up into a cavernous space, brilliant light flooding the room, dispelling the shadows. In the center stood Max, his small figure illuminated as he knelt, clutching his silver locket in his hands, a delicate sense of serenity surrounding him. "Mommy!" He looked up, wide-eyed and frightened yet unyielding. Relief flooded Angela's veins, washing over her like a warm embrace. "Max! How did you find the locket?" she gasped, rushing to his side. "I don't know, it just came to me." His voice was small but steady, confidence blooming within his innocence. "But it felt like it wanted to be with us." Insta. The whispering shadows around them recoiled like a snake retreating from light. It was as if the locket cast a barrier against the darkness, a protective shield growing stronger with every moment spent close to him. The realization struck her hard. This simple piece of jewelry held power, a connection within the curse that bound Wyvern Towers. Suddenly, the echo of voices grew louder, reverberating through the chamber like an earthquake of despair. "You cannot escape. You're ours." The shadows surged toward them, angry tendrils thrashing against the light. Angela took a step back, instinctively shielding her son. "No!" she shouted, anger boiling within her. "We won't be shackled to your pain anymore." Her defiance felt electric, vibrating through the air. The light emanating from the locket pulsed rhythmically, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. "Max, hold the locket high," Angela urged, her heart racing. "It may need our strength, our bond. We have to fight." With trembling hands, Max lifted the locket, the hue brightening beyond any flame. Intense rays surged as if drawn from sacred energy that rippled across the darkness, illuminating the tortured faces that lurked therein. Angela felt the whispers start to break apart, sorrowful wails turning into cries of desperation. The cavern began to quake as shadows twisted and turned, hungry for the warmth of despair. "Stop!" A chorus of tormented voices rang out, choking with fury. "No!" Angela shouted back, the words erupting from her as she stepped forward, emboldened by her love and fury. "We are not afraid. We will break your hold." Together, they charged toward the heart of the shadows, locket held high. As they collided with the darkness, a brilliant light exploded, vibrant and full of hope. It shattered the chains gripping the souls trapped within Wyvern Towers. In that instant, those shadows twisted in agony, their faces clearing, revealing echoes of suffering and sadness. They reached out, wide-eyed with relief for freedom they had long mourned. Angela embraced Max tightly, their love acting as a conduit, encapsulating the energy that surged through the air. They felt the warmth of light seep through, purging the chilling grip of darkness that had held them in terror. The echoes quieted, and a bright light enveloped them, lifting them off their feet, spiraling upward through the shadows like a whirlwind. The walls disintegrated around them, and with each burst of light, hope replaced despair, lifting the curse that haunted Wyvern Towers for years. Then, with a blinding flash, they were thrust into the night air, a cool breeze washing over them as they landed softly on the crumbling path of Wyvern Towers. The malevolent structure now stood silent, an old building reclaiming its shadows. They turned toward each other, breathless and trembling. "We did it, Mommy!" Max cheered, a smile blooming on his face like a burst of sunlight breaking through morning mist. Tears brimmed in Angela's eyes as she knelt to embrace him tightly. "Yes, we did. Together." In that fragile moment, Wyvern Towers hadn't just lost its curse. They had turned pain into purpose, shadows into light. They had reclaimed their lives together. With hearts beating steady in rhythm, they turned away from Wyvern Towers, ready to forge a new path. They stepped away from the haunted structure into a future awash in light, hand in hand, reclaimed yet again by the world that awaited them. But before the scene faded, a soft whisper trailed behind them. "You chose wisely. You are free." If you enjoyed this wild journey, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, or you'll miss out on more exclusive tales like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know you love this story. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Max and Angela's next adventure. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's embrace our tales together.